So, welcome to another episode, South Africans living in ... New York. That's what the show is.
Nice.
My name is David Kau. We are in New York. I know it looks like we're just in some hotel, not even in Sandton, in like Bloemfontein. No. Yeah. We're in New York, guys. Looking for South Africans in New York. I found one of my brothers.
My brother.
This man used to work, he was brand manager for Mzansi Magic, Mnet, South Africa. I made a lot of movies there. I think so far we've made about 15, 16.
Wow, yeah.
And proper, every 48 hours, one of my movies
it's on air.
Playing on.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, good
But
stuff.
one day I went there and you were gone, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't think I really announced that I was going to leave. One, because I felt that I was betraying what I was doing, because I still enjoyed what I was doing there, but I got an opportunity to work for a company that I'd always idolized as a kid, so it was a quick transition. I didn't get to have my farewells and say my byes.
Was that company in South Africa or the company?
It's an American company, but I joined them in the South African office. So I left Mnet to join Nike, and they were based in Midrand. For me, I love sports, I love football, so
I know
it was a no-brainer for me to make
it's
that
like
change.
The fourth day we've been trying to hook up. We're leaving tomorrow. Because every day you're watching the World Cup.
World Cup, it comes once every 4 years. I can always see you.
I guess.
You come to New York often, I'll be back home, we can always catch up. But the World Cup is a once off. Yeah.
Is it different watching the World Cup in America? Because I think it is.
Yeah, look,
at home or in any other soccer.
I think for me the toughest transition is the time of the day.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you have to wake up at 8 to watch the first game versus back home the first game of the World Cup is at 2 p.m. or 1, So for me that's been the toughest part. But in terms of the energy is not like back home, whereas back home football, everybody's into football. But here it's one of 5 things that are happening at the same time. You know what I mean? Like these people are stimulated, exposed to so many things. So football is still fighting for people's attention. So it is quite different. It's very niche, it's probably the only country in the world where football is a niche entity. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
because you look at the stats. I think the last World Cup 2014 was watched by over about 3.1 billion people, which is like over half of the world's population or something at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that being said, true Americans are not really in it, but then New York City, there's people from all over the world, so you do get a sense, people, if Colombia's playing Brazil, you go to a pub, it's packed out, people are leaving work early, so they you have to find the hot spots. But you're right, but here it's still bubbling under, but with these guys having gotten the 2026 World Cup, there's going to be some energy around the sport, so it's going to be interesting.
You've been to America before, right?
Yeah, I used to live here for 10 years previously. I studied here, and then
where?
In the South. So I went to school in Alabama, 4 years, and then when I graduated, I moved to the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco area. So I was there for 6 years, and then actually moved home because of the World Cup 2010. So I was like, you know what, the World Cup is happening in my country. I have to be back in South Africa. So initially I was only going there for June, July during the World Cup. And then when I was there, I met a guy at I think it was after the Uruguay versus Ghana game when Ghana got knocked out, chief marketing officer at KFC.
Yeah.
And then we just started talking, and then he said, you know what, send me a CV, come into the office on Monday. So I did that. 2 days before I was supposed to fly back to California, he offered me a job, and I was like, man, so I had a chat with my mother. My mother's like, it's not gonna happen often that you get offered a job by a big company like KFC, Yum Brands rather. So I took that opportunity. So soccer is what brought me back home, and
bro.
So So
these are the stories I'm looking for, man.
Yeah.
Where was your mom? In the States?
No. My mother, she had also studied here for a long time. In the 70s, she was one of the students that ran away, but at that time my mother had already. So we grew up in Mafikeng, in the northwest. But then by the time I was back in 2010, she had moved to Unisa. So she's living in Pretoria right now. She's still in Very Glen. But I guess So I guess for me, what helped is that she had also lived out the country a lot, so like she understood like that. So like she'd always given me her blessings, even when I left when I was 17 to come study. I guess it helped that she had gone through that path as well.
So when you went 2009, 2010, you came back 6 years later?
6 years later, just on 7 years,
And then, did you get married? Did you have a girlfriend? Did you have a...
So I left KFC, then I went to work at Mnet. Back in the glory days of Mnet, where like it was probably like the best time to be a black person working in television from a brand point of view, because
I think that's where we met.
That's where we met. Yes. That's where we met. So I mean, working on Mzansi Magic and Bioscope and those channels, like we literally was like we created like I guess the template in terms of black television. You know, like from the content creators was black guys, the guys working for the brand was black guys. So like I mean, for me, like I still regard those as some of the best days of my professional life.
I mean, for me, when I made the first movie I made, directed, produced, wrote, whatever, Taxi Ride, was with Mzansi Magic. But it was also the first time I made a movie or a film. So I never went to film school. So my first class was, besides making the Pure Monati show 14 years ago, right? Which was a comedy sketch show, you know.
A classic.
I ran it. Man, people love it. People are still, you know, asking for it.
About it,
So, but my first, like, I'm making a movie, you know. It's almost like I studied and I watched Kagiso, Aquino, Motoso, all the filmmakers in South Africa that I liked. They were Mahlatsi. And then I became...
You took that step yourself.
Then I finally, when I was behind the camera, directing, you know, on top of that, producing, writing, it was when you guys were...
I mean, for me, like I said, I think one thing that was important during that phase is that we were all holding each other's hands, you know, like there were no egos involved, you know, like we knew that we're responsible for making content and like creating a new avenue in the industry. So, I mean, I look back now, like I look at shows that Boys By, all these shows, like the stuff that some of these guys are doing, I'm like, man, like, I wouldn't have thought like this thing. I mean, I knew it was gonna be that successful, but like when I look at it now, like I just laugh and I'm proud of the guys that took the first steps of growing that industry back home.
So part of the reason I'm trying to do this, right? Obviously the content was made for South Africans, you know, and it's working, right? So I'm now trying to make content, one, not just for my followers outside South Africa, but also non-South African language speaking anyone, you know, from wherever they are in the world. Because again, going back to the story, you know, because I think we have so many stories to tell in South Africa, especially, you know, or by South African filmmakers and producers. And I think it's time that we got the stories out. You know? You are now at Nike, right? Are you still telling stories which, you know, someone said, I was listening somewhere, and someone was saying Nike is not trying to sell you a product. They're selling you a story.
I mean, I mean, the brand is always about telling a story through the lens of the athlete. You know what I mean? Like if you look at the success of the Nigerian jersey, like right now it's the most popular jersey during the World Cup. Like that story itself is all about weaving like the stories, like the narrative of like what it means to be in Nigeria, living in Nigeria, 200 million people, like every day is a hustle. You don't know 2 days are like, but then there's 120 million Nigerians outside in the diaspora, you know, and the passion and the patriotism those people have, you know, so like we try to weave those stories because that's how people connect with the product. People don't connect with the product because my shoe makes you run faster than the other guy. Like they want to know what the story is, like the guy making the shoe, like what is the inspiration behind it. So, and a lot of that for me, like that's why like getting into this role that I'm in now, it was almost seamless because even television, like you have to have insights, you have to have stories, right? So like any form of communication, if it's not based on insight, it's gonna fall flat. The audience won't come to your show on TV if the insights aren't there. Even from a product point of view, if you're trying to make a shoe for sprinters, but then it doesn't have the right technology, the consumers aren't going to consume your product. So it's always based on insights and storytelling.
How involved are you now with, I mean, I would think the idea or most of the story begins in America or in the head office.
Yeah, I mean,
so for like you mentioned the Nigerian jersey.
So for me, one of the reasons I moved here was because of the success of us launching. You know Ningi Minga very well.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So myself and Ningi were actually the guys that drove the strategy behind this Nigerian story. So part of me moving here was the guys in Portland and New York. They saw the success of the Nigerian jersey. Like it sold.
Yeah.
We sold over 3 million products in 10 minutes online. Last year we sold over 50,000 units
before the World Cup.
Before the World Cup started. So for me to come here, Nike wants to figure out how to talk football in New York City, because I mean, America is a country of 350 million people.
Damn.
And all those 350 million people, like 100 million are kids under the age of 18. So football is the next big thing. So the brand wants to be in a place where they're telling the stories and I guess connecting with the kids at a high touch level. That's what they call it. So I'm here to try solve the football conundrum for Nike in America. So I mean, it's a great brief for me, because the fact that they trust my knowledge of football,
it's like almost a perfect job.
Man. Yeah, I mean, like it's never felt like a job, you know. Like I mean, I talk about football. Like I mean, football's on my mind 24/7. So like the fact that I get paid to talk about the sport that I'm already a proud fan or a fanatic of. So yeah, it's amazing.
And do you think that, or you being in New York, as opposed to, I mean, I don't know where Nike headquarters
It's in Portland. It's on the west coast by Seattle, not far from Seattle,
So do you think, I guess for work, if they said go to Seattle, you'd probably go, but
look,
or you'd be like, I need to be in New York.
I think I think the phase that I'm in my life right now, I need to be in New York. The energy that's in the city is amazing. It's unbelievable. I mean, like, place like Portland, yes, it's a headquarters of the brand, but then like, outside the office hours, as a black person, you step out like you're the only guy in a pub. So here, I can walk out and I can meet 50 Nigerian guys. I can meet 10 South Africans. So like, I never feel like I'm an outsider, and that's the one thing that I really love about the city. Like, you never get a sense that you're a foreigner, because everybody's from somewhere. Like, we're all trying to figure out together. And I think
even Americans are
they're from
America.
somewhere else. So it's literally Josie, most days, because even like there's very few people that are from Johannesburg in our country. So I think like I said, like for me, I'm using this New York phase in my life to really like try, like, you know, like soak up as much energy and, like, you know, skills as possible, because the next step for me is to go back home. So I'm definitely not gonna leave. If I leave New York, I'm either going back to Johannesburg, or if I get offered a job by Arsenal Football Club, then I moved to London, but I'm going to be based here. Yeah.
I know that's a good club we belong to. Yeah. Are you sad about Arsene Wenger having?
I mean,
I am.
I'm sad. Like, to be honest, like I saw his farewell. Like I was close to tears. I mean, like the man's been there for 22 years. He's done so much, but it's just a pity that the last 10, 12 years of his time at Arsenal weren't as fruitful as his first tenure at the club. But as with anything in life, there's time for change, you know, and I think it was time for change, because I mean the mood within the football club was very negative, you know, like booing of players, booing
and social media.
I think social media played a big role in Arsene finally leaving the club, like that whole Wenger out, those placards that are spotting up everywhere.
So I mean, you mentioned you want to go back home eventually, right? So in what I do, stand-up comedy, TV and film, I always at some stage would wish or wonder where would we be if we were born in America, right? Or almost anywhere outside Africa or South Africa, just in terms of the size of films or productions that are made here and the budgets, etc., as opposed to what we have at home. You know, because we were almost parallel to whatever was happening in the States. So if we've been doing, I mean, I've been doing comedy now for like 20 years, and you look at other comics which started more or less the same time as me, except the only difference was they were born in America, you know? Do you, and you say, you're talking about going back home, right? Which I guess with time and experience, at some stage then someone would sit here and go, I want to go back home. But I've noticed in entertainment, pretty much if you can make it to America,
you're not going back.
Nobody's going back.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, just to backtrack and to answer your question or to just expand on what you're saying, honestly, like the only difference between ourselves and people from here is where we were born, like what the passport says. Because in terms of skill, in terms of knowledge, I mean, we're actually better than a lot of these people. Like I mean, I sit in boardrooms and like I just listen to these people. You know what? Like we just put these people on the pedestal because they're from America, but then like one on one, like we're better than them. So they're fortunate that they're from a country where they scale. You know what I mean? Like they like the population numbers are insane. I mean, in America, you can just be a great comedian in Atlanta and you can make a lot of money. You can have a great career, you know. You can be a regionally great comedian without cracking the national platform. So you're right. So like they fortunate in the sense that like their country, from a population point of view, it's a lot bigger than South Africa, and I guess as an effect of that, brands are willing to throw a lot more money into creative into the entertainment industry. So that's the only difference. And I guess their industry's also been around a lot longer than ours. So it is like right now, like I mean, you could say the South African entertainment industry, like in the true sense, we in our teen years, so we're still going through like the teething problems, so we're still finding ourselves.
So the comedy even works.
But in terms of like that whole creatives wanting to, like once they crack it in America, they won't leave. The irony is that Americans are looking towards Africa for source of inspiration.
You look at Black Panther.
Yeah, you know, like you're looking at Black Panther, you're looking at what Laduma's doing with his Mamposa brand. You're looking at everything, like, because this country, from an inspiration and from a content point of view, it's reached its saturation point, right? They have exhausted all stories. So like now, they're like, what's the next big thing? Africa is an untapped continent. So that's why sometimes, like, you know, like when I mean, I'm on Twitter every day, like I always laugh when I see my peers back home that find gratification from being praised by an American guy. You know what?
And these are the biggest artists in the country.
The biggest guys. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a nobody brand guy from Joburg that lives in Football. But when I'm here, like these guys, like, yo, what's the next best thing in Joburg? Who should I be talking to? You know, so I think we don't know the power that we possess back, like, and that's across the African continent. Like we are, and a big part of it is like the social construct, because we've always consumed their media. Like they've like by default we think what they're doing is what's happening. But to be honest with you, in the next 10 years, like the richest stories are gonna be coming from the African continent, and the key is that we need to be at the forefront of telling those stories, because if we don't, some big studio is gonna come in there, pumping some money.
It's already happening.
Yeah, so that's the key. The key is we need to know the power that we possess on the continent, you know, and I don't think too many of us see the power that we possess, you know. So
do you get to see or meet most of these South African artists? Like, I'm trying to check, do you hang out with a lot of South Africans?
Yeah.
Do you hang out with some of the celebs?
So artists?
Call them that.
So I mean, the first thing that I did when I'm like, I'm a typical South African in the sense that I have to be around my people. Like when I got here, I started a WhatsApp group. South Africans live in New York. There's over 80 of us, so like we organize meetups.
Yeah.
But then outside of my South African network, I have a network of a lot of some ex-Nike guys. I've got Nigerian brothers, Ghanaian brothers. So like there's also like outside the South African community in Brooklyn, like there's a bigger African community, and like within that community, I mean, like guys like Jidena, Yvonne from Insecure, and that's the thing. Like, and you know, like that's the other thing. The humility that these people possess is insane, and like
especially when they're among their own.
They're amongst their own people. You know, like how Nantore, I'm so and so, leave me alone. You know, like and it's humbling, and it's also refreshing seeing that, you know. So
Yvonne was in South Africa a couple of months ago, and I organized for her to perform at the Goliath and Goliath Comedy
in Melrose.
I wasn't there. I think Songezi.
There's a movement that I started he started it and I just came on board. It's called African Chop House. You must check out the page on Instagram, African Chop House. It's started by a guy that used to be my mentor at Nike, Stanley Lamox. Is from Ghana. So African Chop House is born of the concept that African people will always interact over a meal. So every last Saturday of a month, we go to his house, and then I come with a South African dish. There's a South African shop, so I make pap at the house. I make vors. It's not the best. It's not like vors from back home, you know. But guys from Ghana, they come with the jollof rice. Nigerians, igusu soup, you know. So like, so at this chop house, this is where like and it's also by default, it's a massive networking platform. So and that's and you know, so for me, like that's the other thing. Like being here has made me super proud of my roots and being an African, you know.
Funny enough, you know, I started seeing you on, like you said, you didn't have a farewell. You never told anybody you're leaving. I just one day started seeing you Instagramming from New York. You know? And I was like, because you don't know at what stage if someone is visiting.
Yeah, true. Because
the
trip is coming.
You don't know the
I don't do this,
laptop desk and be like grinding.
That's
it's
true.
literally just you chilling every day. You know? So then I was like, okay, I guess Busito has moved. You know? And but like what you just said now, man, for me, content, if we don't own it, you know, we're gonna lose. We're gonna keep
for sure
slaving and working for people. But even what you just said now about that last Saturday, for me, I'm just thinking camera or phones or whatever. You know, maybe at this stage it's pictures. And you guys are there, just a couple of pictures and your Instagram page. But for me, man, that's like an episode. Like every last Saturday of the month, over that meal, there's like a story to tell. You know,
for sure.
About the food, about who's bringing them, who's cooking them, the fact that you're trying to make a South African dish, but the ingredients aren't really from here. But you also can't easily just bring them. You know? Damn, man. It's
So I mean, we're gonna be in Joburg the week of the NBA Africa game.
That's August. That might be. It may be. I'm doing the Dome in South Africa, August 11th.
Okay.
I think it's around.
I think it's a week before then. I think it's a 4th.
If it's before, then it's perfect.
So we're gonna have a chop house in Joburg. So like the same concept.
Yeah.
We're gonna have it in Joburg because we want these guys to experience it because we've had it here, we've had it in LA. So Joburg and London are gonna be the next.
I hope it's on the 4th, man.
Yeah. So we'll definitely invite you just so you can get a sense of what it's about.
No, there's for me. I've tried to travel the continent. I've always believed in this African thing. But that whole, when we made a feature film for like our feature film Blitz Patrolli for like 9 million rands at the time, like $1 million. We had guys leaving our set after who were going to work on the next James Bond film. I think it was Skyfall. The budget was $150 million.
Imagine,
right? Then when our movie came out, our best performing cinema, we were taken out after 3 weeks because Fast and the Furious 6 was coming out. So you can imagine when people go to the cinema, whether it's a $1 million movie or $150 million movie, they don't know and they don't care.
They just want the final product,
right?
For sure,
Which for me goes back to, in obviously the scale in America. It's either you're making
big bread, or it's
this movie and the budgets are like minimum $30 million. And it's just crazy, man. But I think some South Africans started doing it for themselves. Started coming to New York. I mean, some of the guys we were speaking to, and some of the stories people tell. Some are just hilarious. Some are painful.
I mean, like as beautiful as the city is, like I've also heard some dark stories. Like it's New York can really break you. I mean, it's no lie when they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, because it's a very cold city. Like I said, in the sense that everybody's hustling, and in a true sense of hustling,
everybody's consumed by their own issues or problems.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So here, like that whole concept of going next door, Kopatsuki, it's not there, because there's two of them in a studio apartment. It's stuff that you used to hear about when you're a student. Now you're professional. People are doing so. Like it is a very cold city. Like, I mean, that's the reality of the city. Like, I mean, like yes, the glitz of it, like it looks beautiful on the surface, but you really have to also be self-assured as a person, because you can also lose yourself. I mean, I think I've seen people that they've gone by the wayside. So like I said, like it boils down to like knowledge of self and like knowing like what you're here for. You know what I mean? Like I always feel like you have to have like a single-mindedness focus in terms of whatever you want to do as a person.
And in terms of your family, education, your child, are they getting? Does your child get better education here?
Oh, look, I mean, in terms of
how old is she?
No, my daughter's only 6 months next week.
Oh, 6 months?
Yeah, I have a 6-month-old daughter. My son Bokak, he's still back home. He's with his grandmother, so he's not here. So with him, South Africa, in terms of quality of education, South Africa will always be better than the US in the sense that we get a global-centric education. You know, Americans are just about America, you know what I mean? But I mean, for me, the plan is for them to come here from a college standpoint. So, like, do their schooling, primary school, high school in SA, come here from a college point of view, because that just opens up the world for them in terms of opportunities.
Best of both.
Yeah, best of both worlds. So that's the plan. So the plan is, like I said, the plan for me from a professional point of view, work here for 5 years, move back home if that avenue is open. But the kids, I definitely want them to experience college life here.
It's interesting. Everybody's got like a 5-year thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's New York.
So that's the funny thing. You hear a lot of people saying they had a 5-year plan, but 12 years later. I met a couple that say 15 years later we're still in New York. You know, so I think a lot of things come into play. You know, like did you save enough to go back home? You know, like. You know, like you also have to remember, like our people are also prideful people. Like they want to be.
And do you have? I would think you don't. You know the pressures we have at home: buying a car, a certain type of car, buying a house. It's like you've got that pressure for being black and just being black South African, and then you've got now you've got white friends or you work in this corporate where like there was a time when I was building my house right, in Johannesburg, but the developer was a bit dodgy. So it took like 3 years, 9 months for my house to be built.
Completed,
right? So there was a period where I had all these cars, and white comics the comments were literally, "Don't you have a house?" And I'll be like, "No, I'm building a house." But because of the developer being dodgy, it literally started looking like this black guy is lying about having a house and he's busy driving all these cars.
Fancy cars,
you know? So, but for me, the one thing I look forward to being outside South Africa is I don't have to drive.
I mean, for me,
most places, you know.
For me, like that's one of my favorite things. Like I don't drive, like I use a subway. We get around a lot, but obviously with the birth of the girl, we didn't want her to be like, I mean, the New York subway is one of the dirtiest places to be known. So like we bought like a little Mini Cooper Countryman, you know, just for the mom and the baby to get around. But that's the one thing here, like those pressures that we feel back home, because you make so much, you work so and so, you have to buy the latest, like they're not applicable here. And that's the one thing that I love about, especially living in Brooklyn, like the conversations about, I'm investing in real estate, you know, like it's honest, mature black conversations where I'm like, excuse my language, like I wish you could be having those conversations back home, you know, like these people travel, you know, like back home, like there's so many of our peers that are making so much money, but Cape Town is it for them. Like you know what I mean? Like they don't even touch Harare or
not even Swaziland.
Not even Swaziland for the bushfire festival. So so like I think maybe these people you could say they've been exposed to these things a lot longer, but I mean, we're from a generation of black guys. We have been exposed to these things, but like we still trapped in the. I'm living my best life. I want to show.
And there's people that are making more money than us, or that have more resources.
To be
some
doing
have even more time, you know.
A lot of our people, like our relationship with money and like how it's been used, it's still funny.
But I think the dollar, or having to now work and live, was it easy for you to get used to?
No, look, I mean, like every night that I go home, like I convert, like yes, $60, give you for 3 beers, you know. I mean, I've stopped drinking gin and tonic. It's just too expensive. You know, back home, I get to anywhere in Joburg, Greenside Park, is double gin and tonic. A double gin and tonic is $30. That's 500 rand. So like it doesn't make sense, but it also like that thinking, like it hurts you. I want like having to convert in your mind constantly. It's tough. So it's a tough transition. I don't want to lie to you. It's a very tough transition.
Because it's like you're earning so much, but
it's useless. Yeah, it feels like it's useless. Because I mean, when I initially came, I obviously had my money from home, and then like when I was spending, I was like, man, my money just been flushed down the toilet here, you know. So yeah, and like, and this city is also
extra expensive,
very expensive, and because it's always on 24/7, like you can easily blow that money quickly. So you also have to have a lot of personal self-discipline. You know what I mean? So like that's why Nakiri, like I mean like the first month that I was there, I was always out. I was excited meeting new people, but then you're like, damn,
let me stay home.
Like the minute you step out of your house, you've already spent $20 because you have to get on the subway. You have to get that. You know what I mean? So like you're always spending. So self-discipline is important. Yeah. So it's no joke. Yeah.
It's you know, for me, it's like I try and do what I like.
Yeah.
So, like I used to do a lot of when you eat, you know, it's like I don't eat McDonald's at home. But like my first meal here was McDonald's. Because I'm just like I want this thing. You know. Your Shady Shack. Chipotle or Chipotle, you know. So, but for other people, it's still expensive. Like I was once with a friend, we were in London, right? And she was doing an MBA. But literally living a room in a house, living on like £20 a month or a week. You know, it's like what, $15 a week. So we go to Nando's. I look for a Nando's in London. You know, we meet there, and like a typical meal for two people in a London Nando's is like $600, you know. And she was like, "Hey man, I can't."
That's true. Yeah, I mean, So one of the things that I've also like I had to learn quickly is that I think South Africans we were too generous. You know, like I would go out and then like, oh guys, this is on me. So here,
we watch people.
Those people don't play that game. Like they counted. Like I had one lemonade. You know, so I mean, I've had this. I'm like, guys, it's not that serious. I'll take it. My wife's like, Mosito, this is not Joburg. Like, you know, I've been scolded a few times. This is not Joburg. You don't do that here. So I'm like, man, like. It's just in our nature,
this keeps happening.
So,
for me, it's almost awkward watching people, you know, because it also goes down to do we still need to put more? But I put so much, you know, and it happened to us a few days ago. Oh man!
No, it happens. I've had a lot of those situations. I'm like, guys, this is embarrassing, guys. Like, what's missing, you know? And then the thing is, to them, I don't know if it comes across that he's being a typical arrogant African, you know what I mean? So like I think it's the cultural nuances, but for us, like I said, I mean, like if I invite you out, then it's on me. Like those drinks are gonna be on me. Like, and I'm assuming that next time you go to dinner, but I hear like they keep score, which is the weirdest thing ever.
I can imagine. So for me, you can imagine if Americans do that, and you can imagine how South Africans. That have to come here
and see that thing happen
and be in the mix. You know, I've seen it a couple of times. These comics, some are from London, some are from Canada. You know, so everybody has that. Yes, I'm here. I need to change this dollar thing or figure out this dollar thing. But man, I'm so happy. Your story is like a beautiful, happy. You know, it's a happy story to hear, man, to listen to. Because some people sometimes associate Africa and leaving Africa, coming to America with pain or suffering or pain and suffering where you were trying to run away. And then, you know, back in the days, I mean, people would leave their famous whatever work, actors and yada yada, and come to America and be like waiters and, and domestic workers.
That's true. I mean, you hear those stories. That's true.
But I'm glad you literally in a position where you were almost headhunted to come and do something. And it's because you were South African or your knowledge and background has. No, dog. Thanks, man. Thanks
no worries.
So much.
Thank you for
this was dope.
Nice.
Damn.
That's all.
That was another app of South Africans living in New York City.